Alan Minter didn't grow up with fame in his backyard. He was born in the quiet town of Penge. Life was simple, nothing flashy, just a boy, a family, and the ordinary rhythm of a working-class home. But something shifted when Alan was 11. After the family moved to Crawley in West Sussex, young Alan wandered into a local boxing club. It was there, under the eyes of coaches John Hillier and Dougie Bidwell, that gloves replaced school books, and the boy who once stood quietly in the corner started punching his way into a different kind of future. That dusty gym in Crawley wasn't just where he trained. It's where he woke up, where he became someone. And from that moment on, Alan Minter wasn't just another kid from down the road. He was on a path to make sure the world remembered his name. Alan Minter wasn't handed greatness. He chased it. In 1970, he stepped into the ring at the European Junior Championships, young, proud, and wide-eyed. But in his very first fight, he was stopped in the second round by the Soviet powerhouse Vyacheslav Lemeshev. For some, that's where the story would end. But not for Alan. He came back hungrier. By 1971, he was the middleweight champion of England. And that title, it opened the door to something bigger. Munich, 1972. The Olympic Games. Alan didn't just go to represent the UK. He went to fight for every ounce of belief he carried from Crawley to the world stage. Then came Guyana's Reggie Ford. Alan dropped him with a knockout in the second. Then Valery Tregebov of the Soviet Union. Alan won it clean, 5-0. Next was Lusif Hamani from Algeria, 4-1, another solid win. But in the semi-final, everything came down to a razor-thin call. He faced Dieter Kadish from West Germany. Alan fought with heart, but the judges gave it 3-2 to Kadish. It stung. People debated the decision. Some called it unfair. Kadish went on to win gold. Alan went home with bronze. It wasn't just a medal, it was a promise. A reminder that the kid from Crawley belonged in the ring with anyone. And he was just getting started. When Alan Minter turned professional, he didn't tiptoe into the ring. He stormed in. It all began on October 31st, 1972, London. His opponent, Maurice Thomas. Alan stopped him in the sixth round. Knockout. The kid from Crawley had arrived. 5 straight knockouts followed. Alan was on fire. Then came Pat Dwyer, tough, unshaken. For the first time, Minter had to go the distance. He still won, but it was a taste of how long and rough the road could get. Another 5 wins rolled in. Then came Don McMillan. Minter was sharp that night, but cuts, deep, ugly ones, ended the fight in the 8th. It wasn't about skill, it was about skin. He was stopped, and it wouldn't be the last time. He fought again, won twice, then faced Jan Magziars, twice in a row, and twice the cuts came back. The fights were stopped. It was painful, not just physically but emotionally. This wasn't just boxing, it was heartbreak on repeat. 1974 was messy. A decision win against Tony Byrne, a loss to Ricky Torres, again from cuts, a third try with Magziars, ended in a no contest. He finished the year with a much-needed win in Hamburg, Germany, against Shako Mamba. It felt like a breath after drowning. Then came 1975, a clean sweep, for wins. Then the big one, Kevin Finnegan, the British middleweight title. Alan won the full 15 rounds. Every second counted, and when the final bell rang, it was his. He had done it, but he didn't stop there. 1976 was Alan at full power. 10 straight wins. He knocked out Billy Knight, beat Finnegan again, took down Tony Licata in 6, and then he faced the Olympic gold medalist, Sugar Ray Seales. 5 rounds. That's all it took. Alan stopped him. They said he was too cut-prone, too unlucky, too vulnerable. But Alan Minter kept showing up, bleeding or not. And by the end of that year, he was no longer just a British champion. He was one of the top middleweight contenders in the world. In 1977, Alan Minter took a trip to Italy and came back a champion. He faced Germano Valsecchi for the European middleweight title and ended it in 5 rounds. Knockout. Clean. Sharp. He held the belt high that night, standing in the ring with everything he had worked for wrapped around his waist. But boxing never lets you stay on top for long. In his next fight, Ronnie Harris, an experienced former world title challenger, caught Minter and stopped him in the 8th round. Just like that, the streak was over. Still, Alan wasn't one to sulk in silence. He bounced back the only way he knew how, by stepping into the ring. This time, it was Monte Carlo. And across from him stood a legend, Emil Griffith, a former world champion in 2 weight classes. Allen outboxed him for 10 rounds. Sharp jabs, clear footwork, a win that reminded the world Allen Minter was still a real contender. But just as quickly, the highs turn again. In Milan, he lost his European title to Grady Antana, another 8th round stoppage. Still, he ended the year with one more war. 15 rounds against Kevin Finnegan, for the 3rd time. It was brutal. It was close. But Minter pulled it off again, defending his British title in what felt like the final chapter. Then came 1978. On paper, it was a good year. 3 fights, 3 wins, no losses. But it carried a weight that never really left him. First, he flew to Las Vegas. The Muhammad Ali vs. Leon Spinks undercard. Allen Minter made his U.S. debut by knocking out Sandy Torres in 5 rounds. The lights were big, the moment even bigger. It was the kind of stage every boxer dreams of. Then came Italy again. Another title shot, another hard fight. This time it was Angelo Jacopuxai. Minter won by knockout in the 12th. The belt came back home, but Jacopuxai never did. He died days later from the injuries he took in that ring. Allen never spoke about it much, but those who knew him say it changed something in him. You could win a fight, they say, but some victories leave a bruise on the soul. He finished the year strong, knocking out Grady Antana in 6 to settle the score. But deep down, 1978 wasn't about revenge or records. It was about a man realizing just how thin the line is between glory and tragedy. By 1979, Allen Minter was steady again. For fights, for wins, 2 by knockout. No headlines, no drama, just hard work behind the scenes. Every punch thrown was a step closer to the moment he'd dreamed of since Crawley. Allen Minter finally had his shot at the World Middleweight Championship. His opponent, Vito Antuofermo, a tough, rugged champion who didn't back down from anyone. It was a war. 15 brutal rounds. When it ended, the judges couldn't agree. The Venezuelan judge saw Antuofermo winning. The American had it close. But Roland Dakin from Britain? He scored 13 of the 15 rounds for Minter. And just like that, Allen Minter, bloody but standing, was crowned world champion. It wasn't smooth. It wasn't clean. But it was his. 3 months later, they ran it back. This time in London. Minter left no doubts. He stopped Antuofermo in the 8th round, and the crowd roared for their champion. It was the highest point of his career. But the fall came fast. On September 27, 1980, Minter faced a new challenger, marvelous Marvin Hagler, one of the most feared men in boxing. The build-up to the fight turned dark when Minter was quoted as saying he wouldn't lose his title to a black man. He later said he was pushed into it, that he didn't mean it that way. But the words stuck, and they followed him into the ring. Wembley Arena was electric, tense. The bell rang, and Hagler didn't wait. 3 rounds in, Minter's face was a mess. Cut, swollen, bleeding. His corner made the call. The referee waved it off. Minter had lost his title. But the real storm hadn't even started. Bottles flew. Chairs. Glass. The crowd erupted in violence. Hagler stood in the ring, arms raised, as the scene turned to chaos. It was one of the ugliest nights in British boxing history. Allen Minter left that night without the belt, and with more scars than anyone could see. He had climbed all the way up, but the fall was sudden and loud, and it would be the beginning of the end. After the storm of 1980, Allen Minter stepped back into the ring one more time. In 1981, he beat Ernie Singletary in London. A solid win, a reminder that the fire was still there. But the game had changed. The names were getting younger, faster, hungrier. He fought Mustafa Hamsho in Las Vegas, a man who would go on to challenge Hagler himself. Minter gave it what he had, but it wasn't enough. The fight ended in a loss. Then came Tony Sibson, back in London. It was clear by then, Minter's time was passing. His body had been through too much. The cuts, the wars, the years of giving everything to a sport that gives nothing back easy. After that fight, Allen Minter walked away from boxing for good. He left the ring with 39 wins, 9 losses, and 1 no contest. 23 of those wins were knockouts, most of them earned the hard way. But stats could never capture what Alan Minter really brought. The quiet toughness, the comebacks, the way he stood up after every fall, even when his face was falling apart, even when people counted him out, even when he had every reason to quit. In September 2020, Alan Minter passed away from cancer in Guildford. He was 69. He didn't go with headlines or lights. He didn't need them, because for those who watched him fight, for those who remember the blood, the belts, the fire, Alan Minter never really left. He just heard the final bell. Alan Minter's life was never about perfection. It was about persistence. He wasn't the flashiest. He didn't walk in with gold chains or loud words. He walked in with his hands wrapped, his jaw set, and his heart steady. And whether it was Crawley, Monte Carlo, Las Vegas, or London, Alan stepped into every ring like he belonged there. He bled more than most, fought through more cuts than some fighters ever see in a career. But he never let it stop him. Not once. His scars didn't make him weak. They made him memorable. He took on the best. Emil Griffith, Sugar Ray Seals, Vito Antuofermo, Marvin Hagler. He won some. He lost some. But through it all, he stood for something simple. Showing up, no matter what. He carried British boxing through a gritty era. An era where gloves were heavy and the fights were real. He was a champion, yes. But more than that, he was a fighter who understood struggle. He fought with pride, and he wore the pain that came with it. He never tried to hide it. That's what made people connect with him. Outside the ring, he was quiet. No need to brag. No interest in rewriting his story. He lived his life with the same humility he carried in the gym. When he passed away in September 2020, the news didn't come with fireworks. But across the boxing world, there was a pause. People remembered. They remembered the sweat, the split decisions, the roar of Wembley, the heartbreak of Las Vegas, the chaos, the silence, the dignity. Alan Minter didn't just win belts. He earned respect. And maybe that's the real mark of a champion. Not how loud your name echoes when you're on top, but how long it stays when you're gone. So here's to Alan, to the blood on the canvas, to the quiet before the bell, to the cuts that wouldn't stop, and the spirit that never cared, to a fighter who stood up every time he fell. He's gone now, but his fights still speak. And if you listen closely, you can still hear the bell ringing. For Alan Minter,